What if the world ended once before, and we were never told the truth? More than 4,000 years ago, the Epic of Gilgamesh described a catastrophic flood that wiped out civilization, a story carved into clay known as the Tablet of the Great Flood. But that's not all. Ancient maps have surfaced, showing lands that don't exist on modern charts. Lost continents, unknown territories, civilizations erased from memory. Were these myths, or evidence of a forgotten world? Tonight, we uncover the truth behind the ancient map of unknown lands and reveal 10 mysteries hidden within these ancient relics. If you're ready to question history itself, hit subscribe and join us as we dive into secrets buried for thousands of years, because the past is far from finished. Of the Great Flood. What if the story of a great flood did not begin with the Bible, but thousands of years earlier, carved into clay by a civilization almost forgotten? Imagine walking through a quiet museum hall. The lights are soft, the air feels still, and behind a glass case sits a small, cracked clay tablet. It doesn't look powerful, it doesn't look dramatic, but the words pressed into that clay changed how we see history. This small object is known as the Tablet of the Great Flood. At first glance, it's just baked mud with strange markings. But those markings are cuneiform, one of the oldest forms of writing in the world. And when scholars finally learned how to read it in the 1800s, they were shocked. Because the tablet tells the story of a massive flood sent by the gods, a flood that destroys almost all of humanity, and one man who survives by building a giant boat. Sound familiar? The tablet is part of a much larger ancient story called the Epic of Gilgamesh. This epic comes from ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in what is now modern-day Iraq. The story itself is older than many religious texts that came later. The tablet was discovered in the ruins of the ancient city of Nineveh. It was found in the library of an Assyrian king named Ashurbanipal. His library contained thousands of clay tablets. Many were broken. Many were buried under dirt and stone. But among them was this flood story. When British archaeologist George Smith translated the tablet in 1872, he reportedly became so excited that he jumped up and ran around the room, because he realized something huge. The flood story on the tablet was older than the biblical story of Noah. On the tablet, the gods decide to destroy humanity with a flood. The people had become too noisy, too disturbing. The gods could not rest, so they planned to wipe them out. But one god secretly warns a man named Utnapishtim. He is told to tear down his house and build a giant boat. He must bring his family, animals, and craftsmen. He must seal the boat with pitch. Then the storm will come, and it does. The storm is described as violent and terrifying. Winds scream. Darkness covers the land. Even the gods are afraid of the power they unleashed. For days, the flood covers everything. Then finally, silence. The boat comes to rest on a mountain. Utnapishtim releases birds to see if the waters have gone down. First a dove, then a swallow, and finally a raven. When the raven does not return, he knows the land is dry. He leaves the boat and offers a sacrifice to the gods. The gods gather around the smell of the offering. They regret destroying humanity, and Utnapishtim is granted immortality. Now think about this: a global flood, a chosen man, a giant boat, animals saved, birds sent to test the waters, a mountain landing, a sacrifice after survival. The similarities to the story of Noah are clear. But here's where the mystery deepens. The Tablet of the Great Flood is not the only ancient flood story. Many cultures around the world have similar legends. From India to Greece to the Americas, stories of a great flood appear again and again. Why? Was there truly a massive flood event in ancient history that people remembered and passed down? Or are these stories symbolic? Maybe they represent fear of nature. Maybe they are warnings about human behavior. Mesopotamia itself was a land of rivers. Flooding was common. The Tigris and Euphrates could overflow suddenly and destroy cities. It's possible that a very large regional flood became the basis for the legend. But some researchers believe there may have been a real massive flood in ancient times, perhaps after the last ice age, when melting glaciers raised sea levels quickly. Entire coastal settlements could have disappeared. For the people living through it, it would have felt like the whole world was ending. The tablet itself is broken. Parts are missing. Some lines are unclear. That adds another layer of mystery. We don't have the full original story exactly as it was first written. What we have is a copy from around the 7th century BCE. The story itself is likely much older. This means the flood legend may be over 4,000 years old. Now, let's talk about the current condition of this artifact. The tablet is preserved today in the British Museum. It is kept in a controlled environment. Temperature and humidity are carefully managed to prevent further damage. Experts continue to study it using modern imaging techniques to read faded symbols. That's the positive side. It is protected. It is studied. It is accessible to the public. Visitors can see it. Students can learn from it. It is not lost. But there are negatives too. The tablet is fragile. It is already cracked and incomplete. Time has taken its toll. Parts of it are permanently missing. No technology can restore the missing words fully. We can only guess some lines based on other copies. Another issue is debate over ownership. The tablet was taken from Iraq during a time when many artifacts were removed from their original lands. Today, there are discussions about whether such items should be returned to their countries of origin. This creates tension in the world of archaeology and museums. Also, the region where it was found has faced war and instability in modern times. Many ancient sites in Iraq have been damaged or looted. That means other tablets or pieces of history may have been lost forever. So, while this one tablet is safe in London, the larger story of Mesopotamian heritage faces challenges. Standing in front of that clay tablet today, you might not feel its power at first. It's small, it's silent, but it carries one of humanity's oldest memories. It tells us that long before modern religions were formed, people were already asking big questions. Why does disaster happen? Do the gods punish us? Can humanity survive destruction? What does it mean to be chosen? My opinion. I don't think the flood story is just a myth made from nothing. I believe it likely began with a real event, maybe not a flood that covered the entire planet, but one so massive that to the people living through it, it felt like the end of everything. Over time, the story grew. It became spiritual, it became symbolic. The tablet of the Great Flood reminds us that human fear, hope, and imagination have always existed. Even thousands of years ago, people tried to understand chaos in the world. Today, the tablet remains preserved, studied, and displayed safely inside the British Museum. It is protected but fragile. It is famous but still partly broken. It represents both survival and loss. Survival of ancient knowledge and loss of missing pieces we may never recover. And somewhere in those faded wedge-shaped marks pressed into clay, the memory of an ancient storm still echoes. Ljubljana, Marsh's wheel. What if I told you that one simple circle changed the entire future of humanity? Not a weapon, not a king, not a temple, just a wheel. It sounds almost too basic. A round object that rolls. Today, we see wheels everywhere. Cars, bikes, machines, clocks. We don't even think about them. But there was a time when the wheel did not exist. A time when moving heavy objects meant dragging them across dirt with ropes and pure muscle. Now, imagine the very first person who looked at a round log rolling on the ground and thought, "What if I control this?" That moment may be one of the most powerful ideas in human history. One of the oldest real wheels ever found is called the Ljubljana Marshes wheel. It was discovered in Slovenia and dates back over 5,000 years. Think about that. More than 5,000 years ago, someone carved a wooden disc, attached it to an axle, and created movement in a new way. The wheel was not perfect. It was solid wood, heavy, simple, but it worked. And here's where the mystery begins. Why did it take humans so long to invent the wheel? Humans had been building tools, hunting animals, making art in caves, and even building large structures long before the wheel appeared. But the wheel only shows up around 3,500 BCE, mainly in Mesopotamia. That's strange, isn't it? We had brains capable of creating fire, boats, and farming, but the wheel came much later. Some experts believe the wheel was not invented for transport at first. It may have started with pottery. The potter's wheel allowed smooth shaping of clay. Once people understood rotating motion in one area, they may have applied it to transport. And that leads us to ancient Mesopotamia, the land between rivers, often called the cradle of civilization. In that region, early images show wheeled carts pulled by animals. These were not fast or light. They were thick, solid wheels made from planks joined together. But they changed everything. Imagine carrying heavy crops before the wheel. Imagine moving stone blocks for building without rolling support. The wheel reduced effort. It increased distance. It made trade easier. It connected cities. And once trade expands, ideas expand. But here's another question. Why did some advanced civilizations not use the wheel widely? Take ancient Egypt, for example. They built massive pyramids. They had advanced knowledge of math and engineering. Yet, for large building projects like the pyramids, there is little evidence they used wheels to move stones. Instead, they used sledges and wet sand to reduce friction. Why? One reason could be geography. The Nile flooded regularly. Muddy ground is not ideal for wheels. Sledges may have worked better. Also, early wheels were fragile. Rough terrain could break them easily. In the Americas, civilizations like the Maya and Aztec had small wheeled toys. Yes, toys with wheels, but they did not develop wheeled transport. Why not? Possibly because there were no large animals like horses or oxen to pull heavy carts. Without strong animals, wheels for transport were less useful. So, the invention of the wheel alone was not enough. It needed the right environment, animals, and roads. The wheel is simple in shape, but complex in design. It requires an axle. And here's something interesting. The real genius is not the round disc. It's the idea that the wheel turns while the axle stays still. That understanding of controlled rotation is what changed mechanics forever. When you think about it, the wheel is not just about movement. It is about engineering thinking. It shows that humans began to understand how parts work together. From simple carts, the idea grew. Wheels led to chariots. Chariots changed warfare. Faster armies meant bigger empires. Later, wheels led to watermills, windmills, gears, clocks, factories, trains, cars, airplanes. Modern civilization runs on spinning systems. Now, imagine the first ancient wheelmaker, sitting with wood, carving a circle without modern tools. No perfect compass, no machines, just patience and skill. If the circle was not balanced, the cart would shake. If the hole for the axle was not centered, it would fail. It required precision long before metal tools were advanced. And here's another mystery. We don't know exactly who invented the wheel. There is no single name. No single village we can point to with full certainty. It likely developed slowly, maybe even in different places at similar times. that makes it even more powerful. It belongs to humanity, not one person. Now, let's talk about the present situation of ancient wheel discoveries. The Ljubljana Marshes wheel is preserved today in Slovenia. It is kept under careful conditions because it is made of wood. Wood does not survive easily for thousands of years. It was preserved in wet marshland, which protected it from air and decay. Once removed, it needed special treatment to stop it from cracking. Many ancient wheels found around the world are now protected in museums. Scientists study the wood, the tool marks, even the tree rings to learn about climate and life at that time. Technology like 3D scanning allows researchers to study without touching too much. But there are negatives too. Wooden artifacts are fragile. Climate change affects preservation. Rising humidity or dryness can damage them. Also, many early wheels may have been lost forever because wood decays easily. What we have today may be only a small part of the full story. There is also a problem of illegal digging. In some regions, ancient artifacts are stolen and sold. When that happens, context is lost. Without knowing exactly where and how an object was found, history becomes harder to understand. Another modern issue is that we rarely think about the wheel's importance anymore. It feels ordinary. We celebrate kings and pyramids, but not simple tools. Yet, without the wheel, global trade, travel, and modern industry would not exist as we know it. Standing in front of one of the oldest wheels today does not feel dramatic at first. It is not golden. It is not covered in jewels. It is just wood, cracked by time. But that cracked wood once carried weight. It carried ideas. It carried the future. My opinion? I believe the wheel is one of the greatest examples of human creativity. Not because it is complex, but because it is simple. True genius is often simple. A circle that rolls. A small idea that moves the world. At the same time, I think we sometimes focus too much on mystery and not enough on appreciation. The wheel may not hide dark secrets like lost cities or hidden chambers. Its mystery is quieter. It asks us to imagine the moment of realization, the first controlled roll. Today, ancient wheels are preserved carefully in museums. They are stable but fragile, protected yet limited in number. We have positive advancements in preservation and research, but we also face challenges like environmental changes and artifact theft. The ancient wheel may no longer turn, but its impact still spins around us every second. And in that simple circle, carved by human hands thousands of years ago, we see the beginning of motion that never stopped. Tenkagoken. What if I told you that somewhere in Japan, there are 5 swords so legendary that people once believed they carried the power of the heavens? Not just weapons, not just steel, but blades with spirits, history, and almost supernatural presence. When you hear the name 5 heavenly swords, it already feels mysterious. In Japan, they are known as Tenkagoken. For centuries, warriors, collectors, and even emperors treated these blades with deep respect. They were not just tools of war. They were symbols of honor, fear, beauty, and sometimes even curses. But here's the real question: are they truly heavenly, or is their power born from stories passed down through time? Let's step back for a moment. Japan's sword-making tradition is one of the most respected in the world. The katana is not just a blade, it is a work of art. The folding of steel, the sharp edge, the curve, everything has meaning. A master swordsmith could spend months creating a single blade. Now imagine 5 swords that stood above all others. The 5 heavenly swords are not grouped because of magic powers proven by science. They are grouped because of reputation, skill, history, legends that refuse to fade. One of the most famous among them is the Dojigiri Yasutsuna. Its name means Slayer of Shutendoji. According to legend, this sword was used to kill a powerful demon named Shutendoji, who terrorized Kyoto. Whether the demon truly existed or not is another mystery, but the sword's reputation grew because of that story. The blade was forged by Yasutsuna, a swordsmith from the Heian period. It is considered one of the oldest surviving Japanese swords. Even today, experts admire its shape and balance. Another blade in the group is the Onimaru Kunitsuna. Its name translates roughly to Demon Circle. This sword also carries a strange story. It was once owned by a regent who was said to be haunted by a demon spirit. The legend says the sword moved on its own at night and struck down the demon, freeing its owner. True? Maybe not. But such stories gave the sword a powerful identity. Then we have the Mikazuki Munechika. This blade is known for its beautiful crescent-shaped pattern in the steel, which looks like a moon. Mikazuki means crescent moon. It is often described as one of the most beautiful swords ever made. Beauty is important here. These swords are not famous just for battle, but for craftsmanship. The patterns in the steel, called heiman, are created through careful heating and cooling. No two swords are exactly the same. Another of the 5 heavenly swords is the Odenta Mitsuyo. It carries fewer dramatic demon stories, but it is deeply respected for its historical importance and elegant design. And finally, there's the Juzumaru Tsunetsugu. This sword is closely connected with a Buddhist monk named Nichiren. The story says the sword was named Juzumaru, meaning rosary sword, because prayer beads were wrapped around it. It blends the image of a weapon with spiritual devotion. Now, think about that. Weapons tied to demons. Weapons tied to monks. Weapons tied to moonlight. It almost feels like mythology rather than history. But here's where things get interesting. These swords are real. They exist. They are preserved. They are recognized as national treasures of Japan. They are kept in museums, shrines, and private collections. They are not swinging in battle anymore. They are protected behind glass. The mystery is not whether they are real. The mystery is how much of their legend is real. Japan has a long tradition of giving spiritual meaning to objects. In Shinto belief, even tools can hold a spirit if they are made with care and used with purpose. A sword, especially one made by a master, could be seen as alive. Samurai treated their swords almost like partners. A blade was not just metal. It represented their soul. Losing it was dishonor. Damaging it was shameful. Over time, stories grew. If a sword survived many battles, people believed it had divine protection. If its owner won many fights, the sword received credit. But we must ask, were these swords truly different in performance? Or was it the skill of the warriors using them? Steel technology in Japan was advanced for its time. Folding the steel removed impurities. The curved design made it strong yet sharp, but many swords from that era were high quality. So what makes these 5 stand above the rest? Reputation, ownership, legend. For example, Dojigiri Yasutsuna passed through the hands of powerful shoguns. When a blade is owned by leaders, its status increases. It becomes part of national identity. Now, let's talk about their present situation, both positive and negative. On the positive side, these swords are extremely well protected today. Japan takes cultural heritage very seriously. They are kept in controlled environments to prevent rust. Temperature and humidity are monitored carefully. Experts maintain them using traditional methods. Some are displayed occasionally in museums, allowing the public to see them. That is a strong positive. Unlike many ancient weapons lost to war or theft, these swords survived centuries of conflict. Japan's careful preservation has helped keep them safe. Modern technology also allows detailed study. High-resolution imaging shows the fine patterns in the steel. Metallurgical research helps understand how they were forged. But there are negatives too. Because they are so rare and valuable, they are rarely displayed. Many people will never see them in person. They spend much of their time hidden for protection. There is also the natural issue of aging. Even with care, metal can corrode over long periods. Every time a sword is polished, a tiny layer of steel is removed. Over centuries, repeated polishing can slightly change its original form. Another challenge is myth versus fact. Some historians argue that legends around these swords may exaggerate their importance. When stories mix with history, it becomes harder to separate truth from imagination. And in today's world, where fast technology dominates, fewer young people learn traditional sword-making skills. The craft still exists, but it is rare and requires years of dedication. Without new masters, the deeper understanding of these blades could slowly fade. When I think about the 5 heavenly swords, I don't believe they are magical in a supernatural way. I don't think they move on their own at night or fight demons. But I do believe they hold something powerful. They hold human emotion. They carry the pride of swordsmiths who poured their skill into steel. They carry the fear and courage of warriors who trusted them in battle. They carry centuries of storytelling that shaped culture. Sometimes the real magic is not in the object, it is in the meaning we give it. Today, the 5 heavenly swords remain preserved in Japan as national treasures. They are stable, protected, and respected. That is the positive. But they are also fragile, rarely seen, and slowly aging with time. That is the negative. They no longer taste battle. They no longer hang at a samurai's side. Instead, they rest quietly, shining softly under museum lights. And maybe that is fitting. Once feared on battlefields, now admired as art. Once symbols of war, now symbols of history. The 5 heavenly swords still exist, not in the sky, not in myth, but here on earth, silent, sharp, and waiting behind glass. Knock culture. What if I told you that deep beneath the red soil of Nigeria, hidden for more than 2,000 years, lay faces staring back at us. Faces with wide eyes, detailed hair, calm expressions, and secrets we still don't fully understand. In the early 1900s, miners digging for tin in central Nigeria began to find strange clay heads. At first, they thought nothing of them, broken pieces of baked earth. But when more and more appeared, people realized something important was buried there. These were not random objects, they were works of art. They belonged to what we now call the Knock culture, one of the oldest known civilizations in West Africa. And for a long time, the world knew almost nothing about them. The Knock culture existed roughly between 1000 BCE and 300 CE. That means these people were creating advanced art more than 2,000 years ago, long before many famous African kingdoms rose to power. But here's the mystery. We know them mainly because of their terracotta sculptures. We do not have large written records. We do not have clear royal names. We do not have grand stone cities like Egypt or Rome. What we have are faces, human figures, animals, carefully shaped from clay and fired in strong heat. And these sculptures are not simple. They show detailed hairstyles, jewelry, complex expressions. Some figures sit calmly, some stand, some look powerful. Many have large triangular or round eyes with drilled holes in the pupils. The style is unique. You can recognize a Knock sculpture almost immediately. Why were they made? That question still puzzles experts. Some believe they were used in religious rituals. Others think they may have marked graves or honored important ancestors. The size varies. Some are small, others are nearly life-sized. Many were found broken, which adds more mystery. Were they broken by time, by ritual, by conflict? Another fascinating detail is that the Nok people were among the earliest known iron users in sub-Saharan Africa. Iron smelting evidence has been found at Nok sites. That is huge. Working with iron requires advanced knowledge. It changes farming, it changes tools, it changes warfare. So here we have a culture making detailed art and working with iron thousands of years ago. And yet, for centuries, they were forgotten. The land where Nok artifacts are found is mostly farmland and small villages today. The ancient settlements were buried by time, erosion, and changing landscapes. There are no tall ruins standing above the ground to announce their presence. Their story had to be dug up. In the 1920s and 1940s, archaeologists began to study the area more carefully. They found more sculptures, they found iron furnaces, they found pottery. Slowly, a picture formed, but it is still incomplete. We do not know exactly how Nok society was structured. Were they ruled by kings, elders, priests? We can guess based on art, but without written records, certainty is impossible. And that uncertainty makes it mysterious. Another strange fact is that many Nok sculptures were discovered out of their original context. Farmers would find them while plowing. Miners would find them while digging. This means we lost some important information about how they were originally placed. Context matters in archaeology. If you find a statue inside a building, it tells you something different than if you find it buried alone. Sadly, many early finds were not carefully recorded. Then came another problem: looting. As Nok art became famous in the global art market, illegal digging increased. Artifacts were stolen and sold internationally. Once an object is removed without proper study, we lose history. We lose clues. That is one of the biggest negatives surrounding Nok artifacts today. Now, let's talk about their artistic style. The faces are calm but strong. The hairstyles are detailed and creative. Some figures wear elaborate headgear. The bodies are often long and balanced. The craftsmanship shows skill and planning. These were not random village decorations. They required time, knowledge, and artistic tradition passed down through generations. Some scholars believe Nok art may have influenced later West African cultures, such as the famous If and Benin artworks that came centuries later. While direct proof is debated, the possibility shows how important Nok culture might be in the bigger African story. For many years, African ancient history was wrongly ignored or underestimated in global discussions. Discoveries like Nok changed that. They proved that complex societies existed in West Africa very early. That is a powerful correction to history. Now, what is the present situation of Nok artifacts? On the positive side, awareness has increased. Nigerian authorities now recognize the importance of Nok heritage. Museums in Nigeria display some of the sculptures. Archaeological research continues, with better scientific methods like carbon dating and soil analysis helping us understand timelines more clearly. International museums also hold Nok pieces, though this brings debate about rightful ownership. Some pieces have been returned to Nigeria in recent years. There is growing global support for protecting African heritage. Another positive is education. More African historians and archaeologists are leading research into their own cultural past. That is important for preserving identity and pride. But there are still serious negatives. Looting remains a threat. Illegal artifact trade has not fully stopped. Some sites are still unprotected and vulnerable. Environmental changes also affect archaeological sites. Farming, erosion, construction, and mining can damage areas before they are properly studied. Funding is another issue. Large-scale archaeological work requires money, equipment, and long-term planning. Not all sites receive enough support, and even today, many Nok settlements remain undiscovered beneath the soil. When I think about Nok culture, I feel both admiration and frustration. Admiration because these people created art that still feels alive thousands of years later. Their faces look thoughtful, almost modern. You can stand in front of a Nok terracotta head and feel like it is watching you. Frustration because we lost so much information. We don't know their language, we don't know their myths, we don't know their personal stories, but maybe there is beauty in that mystery. Sometimes history does not shout, it whispers. The Nok culture does not leave behind giant pyramids or marble temples. It leaves behind expressions. Eyes carved in clay, hairstyles shaped by hand, iron furnaces buried in earth. Today, Nok artifacts are partially protected and studied, but still face risks from looting and environmental damage. Research continues slowly. More discoveries may come in the future. The sites are not as famous as Egypt or Rome, but they are deeply important. In my opinion, Nok culture deserves much more global attention. It reminds us that civilization did not grow in only one part of the world. Creativity and intelligence existed everywhere. Africa's ancient past is rich and powerful. Right now, the Nok sites in Nigeria remain a mix of protected areas and vulnerable land. Some artifacts rest safely in museums. Others may still be hidden underground. The situation is improving, but challenges remain. And somewhere beneath the red soil, more clay faces may still be waiting, silent, patient, and ready to tell their story. Festos disc. What if I told you that somewhere in the Mediterranean, pressed into clay nearly 4,000 years ago, lies a message that no one on Earth can read? Not because it is damaged, not because it is faded, but because we simply do not understand the language. Imagine holding a small, round clay disc in your hands, about the size of a dinner plate. On both sides, tiny symbols spiral toward the center. Little stamped images, a running man, a helmet, a bird, a shield, a flower. Each symbol carefully pressed into soft clay before it was baked hard by fire. This is the Festos disc. Discovered in 1908 on the island of Crete, inside the ruins of the ancient Minoan palace of Festos, this object has puzzled experts for more than a century. And the strangest part? We still cannot decode it. The disc dates to around 1700 BCE. That places it during the time of the Minoan civilization, one of the earliest advanced societies in Europe. The Minoans built large palaces, developed trade networks across the Mediterranean, and created beautiful art. They had writing systems like Linear A, which is also not fully understood. But the symbols on the Festos disc are different. There are 45 unique symbols repeated across the surface in a spiral pattern. They were not carved by hand individually. They were stamped using small seals. That means this may be one of the earliest known examples of movable type printing. Let that sink in. Movable type printing is something we usually connect with much later periods, like medieval Europe. But here, thousands of years earlier, someone was pressing repeated symbols into clay in a systematic way. Why? That is the mystery. Is it a religious hymn, a prayer, a legal document, a game board, a calendar, a spell, a story? We don't know. And because it is a single object, we have no other long texts using the same script. Comparison is almost impossible. When scholars decode ancient languages, they rely on multiple examples. They look for patterns, repeated words, known names. But with the Festos disc, we only have this one. That makes it incredibly difficult. Some researchers have tried to connect it to Linear A. Others believe it may represent a completely separate writing system. A few have even suggested it could be a fake. created in the early 1900s. But most experts reject that idea because the disc was found in a controlled archaeological excavation. The spiral layout is also unusual. Most ancient writing moves in straight lines. Here, the text winds inward like a maze. Imagine the person who made it. They carefully arranged the stamps in a spiral. They pressed each symbol into the soft clay. They separated words using small vertical lines. They knew exactly what the symbols meant. And now, thousands of years later, we stare at it without understanding. It's like receiving a message from the past written in code. The Minoan civilization itself adds to the mystery. Centered on Crete, they were powerful traders and builders. Their palaces, like Knossos and Festos, were large and complex. They had colorful frescoes and advanced plumbing systems. But around 1450 BCE, their civilization declined. Some believe a massive volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Thera, now known as Santorini, played a role. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and economic disruption may have weakened them. When civilizations collapse, languages can disappear too. And when a language disappears without translation, its meaning may be lost forever. That is possibly what happened here. Now, let's talk about the present condition of the disc. Today, the Festos disc is preserved in the Archaeological Museum of Heraklion in Crete. It is displayed carefully behind glass. The clay has survived surprisingly well. The symbols are still clear. The spiral is still visible. That is a strong positive. It is intact. It is protected. It continues to be studied with modern tools like 3D scanning and high-resolution photography. Digital models allow researchers around the world to examine every detail, but there are negatives too. The biggest negative is that without more related discoveries, full understanding may never happen. If we do not find more examples of the same script, decoding it remains extremely difficult. Another issue is speculation. Because it is undeciphered, many theories appear, some serious, some wild. People connect it to Atlantis, lost civilizations, even extraterrestrials. While these ideas attract attention, they can distract from serious research. Also, the artifact stands alone. Archaeology works best with context. The disc was found in a palace storage room, but its exact function remains unknown. Without surrounding documents in the same script, it remains isolated. Yet, maybe that is what makes it so powerful. In a world where so much is explained, here is something that refuses to speak clearly. When I think about the Festos disc, I don't feel frustration. I feel wonder. There is something beautiful about mystery that survives time. It reminds us that we do not know everything about the past. Even with satellites, AI, and advanced science, a small clay disc from 1700 BCE can still keep its secret. In my opinion, the disc represents both human creativity and human limits. Someone long ago wanted to record something important. They used symbols, order, repetition. They believed their message mattered. And yet, the meaning slipped through history's fingers. Today, the Festos disc rests safely in Crete. It is stable and carefully preserved. That is the positive. It is not broken or lost. It continues to inspire research. But it remains unread, silent, alone. The situation today is calm but unresolved. Scholars continue to study it. Tourists visit and stare at it. The clay holds firm. But the message inside remains locked. And somewhere in that spiral of symbols, pressed into clay by hands long turned to dust, a voice from 3,700 years ago is still waiting to be heard. Lycurgus cup. What if I told you that nearly 1,600 years ago, the Romans created a cup that changes color? Not with paint, not with hidden lights, but with something so advanced that modern scientists only fully understood it in recent decades. Imagine standing in a quiet museum room. In front of you is a glass cup from the 4th century Roman Empire. It looks green when light shines onto it from the front. But when light shines from behind, it suddenly glows deep red. Green, then red. Same cup, same glass, different light. It feels like magic, but it's not magic, it's science, and that's what makes it even more mysterious. The Lycurgus cup is one of the most fascinating objects ever found from ancient Rome. It is made of glass, but not ordinary glass. The surface is carved into a cage-like design, showing a dramatic scene from Greek mythology. It depicts King Lycurgus being trapped by vines as punishment for insulting the god Dionysus. The carving alone is impressive. Roman glassworkers were highly skilled. They could shape, cut, and polish glass into detailed forms. But what truly shocked modern researchers was not the artwork, it was the color change. For centuries, people admired the cup without fully understanding why it behaved this way. It wasn't until the 20th century, when scientists studied it under microscopes, that the truth began to appear. Inside the glass are tiny particles of gold and silver, not visible to the naked eye. These particles are incredibly small, measured in nanometers. That means they are thousands of times thinner than a human hair. When light hits them, they scatter and reflect it differently depending on the direction. In simple words, the glass contains ancient nanotechnology. Let that sink in. Nanotechnology is something we usually connect with modern science labs. But here we have Roman craftsmen accidentally or intentionally creating a material that works on the nanoscale. Did they fully understand the physics behind it? Probably not in modern scientific terms, but they clearly understood how to achieve the effect. They knew that mixing tiny amounts of gold and silver into molten glass could create unique optical results. They controlled the heating and cooling carefully. Too much metal, and the glass would turn muddy. Too little, and the effect would not appear. That level of control requires experimentation and deep knowledge of materials. And here comes the mystery. Was the color-changing effect intentional? Most experts believe yes. The effect is too precise to be a random accident. But we do not have written instructions from Roman glassmakers explaining how they did it. The cup likely belonged to a wealthy Roman elite. It may have been used during special ceremonies or feasts. Imagine pouring wine into it. In candlelight, it glows red. In daylight, it appears green. It must have amazed guests. In ancient times, such an effect could easily be seen as magical. The Roman Empire was full of engineering wonders: aqueducts, roads, domes, heating systems. They were masters of practical science. But the Lycurgus cup shows something deeper: artistic science, beauty combined with material knowledge. And yet, we only have one complete example like this. That raises another question. If Roman craftsmen could produce such advanced glass, why don't we see many more surviving examples? Perhaps they were rare and extremely expensive. Perhaps the technique was secret, known only to a few workshops. Perhaps many were lost, broken, or melted down during centuries of war and economic collapse. Glass is fragile. Time is not kind to fragile things. Now, let's talk about its present condition. Today, the Lycurgus cup is preserved in the British Museum in London. It is kept under careful lighting and environmental control. Scientists continue to study its composition using advanced tools. Modern researchers even use it as inspiration for new technologies, including sensors and optical materials. That is a strong positive. The cup is stable, protected, studied. It continues to teach us about ancient craftsmanship and material science. It challenges the idea that ancient people were limited in understanding. But there are negatives too. The cup is extremely delicate. Glass can crack under stress. Any damage would be irreversible. It cannot be handled casually. It must remain behind protective glass. There is also debate about cultural ownership. Like many ancient artifacts housed in major European museums, questions sometimes arise about where such items should permanently reside. Another negative is that we still do not fully understand the workshop or craftsman who made it. Without written records, much of its origin story remains unknown. Yet, maybe that unknown is part of its charm. When I think about the Lycurgus cup, I feel a sense of respect for ancient creativity. I don't believe the Romans had modern nanoscience theories, but they had skill, patience, and deep experimentation. They understood materials through practice. In my opinion, this cup is proof that ancient civilizations were more advanced than we often imagine. Not in computers or electricity, but in observation and craftsmanship. They pushed the limits of what they had. At the same time, it reminds us how much knowledge can disappear. If techniques like this were more common, they were lost for centuries before being rediscovered by modern science. Today, the cup rests safely in a museum. It is admired by visitors from around the world. It is studied carefully. That is the positive. But it is also alone. A rare survivor of a technique that may have once been more widespread. Fragile, protected, slightly mysterious. The current situation is stable but cautious. Conservation teams monitor it. Researchers continue to learn from it. The public views it under controlled lighting. And every time light shifts across its surface, turning green into glowing red, we are reminded of something powerful. The past is not as simple as we think. Sometimes, a Roman cup can hold secrets that even modern science takes centuries to understand. Is Piri Reis map. What if I told you that more than 500 years ago, a map was drawn that seemed to show lands no one officially discovered yet? Not a fantasy drawing, not a myth, but a real map, drawn on gazelle skin, filled with coastlines that look strangely accurate. Imagine the year is 1513. Europe is still trying to understand the size of the world. Columbus has sailed west only a few years earlier. Most of the globe is still labeled with guesses, sea monsters, and blank spaces. And yet, in the Ottoman Empire, a naval officer named Piri Reis carefully draws a world map. Centuries later, when part of that map was rediscovered in 1929 inside the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, scholars were shocked. Because the coastline of South America on the map looks surprisingly detailed. Even more mysterious, some researchers believed a section might show Antarctica without ice. That claim alone sparked decades of debate. The Piri Reis map is not a full world map. Only about 1/3 survives today. It shows parts of Europe, Africa, and the Americas. The rest is lost. On the map itself, Piri Reis wrote notes explaining that he used multiple sources. He mentioned about 20 different maps and charts. Some from Portuguese explorers. Some from Arab navigators. Some he claimed were very old, possibly even from the time of Alexander the Great. Think about that. A map created from older maps, layered together like pieces of a puzzle. Now, here is where the mystery grows. When modern researchers compared parts of the South American coastline on the Piri Reis map with modern satellite images, they noticed similarities. The curve of Brazil, the shape of certain bays. But how accurate is it really? Some historians argue that the map is impressive, yes, but not supernatural. They say that Portuguese explorers had already sailed along much of South America by 1513. So Piri Reis may simply have had access to very good Portuguese charts. That sounds reasonable. But what about Antarctica? In the 1950s, a researcher claimed that the lower part of the map resembled the coast of Antarctica, specifically Queen Maud Land, and suggested it was shown without ice. That idea exploded into books and documentaries. Some even suggested lost ancient civilizations had mapped Antarctica before it froze. It sounds dramatic, but many modern scholars disagree with that interpretation. They argue that the supposed Antarctica is more likely just a distorted extension of South America. Early maps often stretched coastlines incorrectly due to limited measurement tools. Navigation in the 1500s was difficult. Sailors used stars, compasses, and basic tools. Longitude was especially hard to calculate accurately, so distortions were common. Still, the map remains impressive. It shows a level of geographic knowledge that suggests global information exchange. The Ottoman Empire was connected to trade networks stretching across Europe, Africa, and Asia. Information traveled along these routes. The Piri Reis map reminds us that exploration was not only European. Many cultures were sharing knowledge. Maps were being copied, adjusted, and improved across regions. Now, imagine Piri Reis at work. He sits with multiple charts spread around him. Some old and worn, some newly brought from distant voyages. He compares coastlines. He draws carefully. He writes notes in Ottoman Turkish explaining his sources. He was not claiming to discover new lands himself. He was compiling knowledge. And yet, centuries later, his work becomes a mystery. One reason is the map's artistic style. It includes detailed illustrations of ships, animals, and even mythical creatures. Early maps were not just scientific tools, they were storytelling devices. Blank spaces often held imagination. The mystery around the Piri Reis map grew partly because people loved the idea of hidden knowledge, secret maps of lost lands, forgotten civilizations, advanced ancient science. But sometimes the truth is both simpler and more powerful. It shows how knowledge builds over time. Now, let's talk about its present condition. Today, the surviving fragment of the Piri Reis map is preserved in the Topkapi Palace Museum in Istanbul. It is kept under controlled temperature and lighting to prevent fading and damage. The parchment is fragile after more than 500 years. That is a positive. It is protected by experts. It is studied using high-resolution imaging. Scholars continue to analyze the ink, the handwriting, and the geographic projections. But there are negatives too. Only one fragment survives. The rest of the map is missing. We do not know what the full version looked like. That missing portion creates room for speculation. Also, because of the mystery and exaggerated claims over the years, the map is sometimes used in conspiracy theories. Some say it proves ancient global civilizations with advanced technology. Others claim it shows secret knowledge suppressed by governments. These ideas may sound exciting, but they often ignore historical context. The real wonder of the map is not hidden, ice-free Antarctica. It is the network of shared human curiosity. It represents sailors risking their lives, cartographers comparing notes, cultures exchanging information across oceans. In my opinion, the Piri Reis map is powerful not because it breaks history, but because it fits into it in a fascinating way. It shows that the early 1500s were a time of rapid knowledge growth. Information was moving faster than ever before. At the same time, it reminds us how easily myths can grow around incomplete evidence. Today, the map rests safely in Istanbul. It is stable but delicate, carefully preserved, studied by historians, admired by visitors. The positive is that it continues to inspire interest in cartography and global history. The negative is that we will likely never recover the missing sections. The present situation is calm but incomplete, The fragment survives. The full picture does not. And maybe that is why it still captures imagination. Because when you look at that faded parchment, with its curling coastlines and handwritten notes, you are not just seeing a map. You are seeing a moment in time when the world was still unfolding, and when the edges of the unknown were slowly being drawn into human understanding. Decay spheres. What if I told you that deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, hidden under thick plants and heavy rain for centuries, lie giant stone balls so perfectly shaped that people once believed aliens must have made them? Perfect spheres. Not rough rocks, not natural boulders, but smooth, nearly round stones, some as tall as a person and weighing up to 15 tons. Imagine walking through a humid tropical forest. The air is heavy. Insects buzz around you. And suddenly, in a clearing, you see a massive stone sphere sitting quietly on the ground. No markings, no writing. Just a near-perfect circle carved from solid rock. That's the mystery of the decay spheres. They were first brought to wide attention in the 1930s, when workers were clearing jungle land for banana plantations in southern Costa Rica. As trees were cut and land was leveled, strange round stones appeared from the earth. At first, some workers believed there might be gold hidden inside. A few spheres were damaged when people tried to break them open, but there was no treasure inside. The treasure was the sphere itself. These stones were created by the ancient Decus culture, which existed in the region roughly between 700 and 1500 CE. That means some of the spheres are over 1,000 years old. Now, here's the real question. How did they make them so round? The spheres were carved mostly from a hard stone called granodiorite. This material is not soft. It requires effort and skill to shape. Without modern metal tools or machines, the Decus people likely used hammerstones and controlled heating techniques to slowly chip away at the rock. Experts believe they shaped the stones by repeatedly heating and cooling the surface to crack and smooth it, then polishing it with sand and smaller stones. It must have taken enormous patience. Some spheres are small, about the size of a basketball. Others are huge, over 2 meters in diameter. The largest ones weigh several tons. And here's another mystery. Many of the spheres were found arranged in lines or geometric patterns. Some were placed near houses of important leaders. Others were part of larger ceremonial spaces. This suggests they were not random decorations. They had meaning. But what meaning? Some researchers believe the spheres were symbols of power and status. The larger the sphere near your home, the more important you were. Others think they may have represented celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, or stars. A few even suggest they were used to mark astronomical alignments, though strong evidence for that is still debated. And of course, because they are so perfectly round, some people have suggested wild ideas, ancient advanced technology, lost civilizations, even visitors from space. But there is no evidence for aliens. The skill of human hands is enough. What makes the spheres truly fascinating is their simplicity. They are just spheres. No carvings, no faces, no symbols, pure shape. That pure shape makes them feel timeless. Unlike statues that clearly show a culture's clothing or religion, these spheres are abstract. They do not immediately tell you who made them or why, and that silence creates mystery. Now, let's talk about their present condition. Today, the Decay spheres are recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Several locations in southern Costa Rica are protected. Some spheres remain in their original positions. Others have been moved to museums or public spaces for protection. That is a strong positive. They are now officially valued as cultural heritage. Conservation efforts aim to prevent further damage. Archaeologists continue to study the surrounding sites to better understand the Decay's people. But there are negatives too. When the spheres were first discovered in the 1930s and 1940s, many were moved without proper records. Some were relocated to government buildings, parks, or private gardens. This destroyed their original context. Without knowing their exact original placement, it is harder to understand their purpose. Some spheres were damaged by treasure hunters who believed myths about gold hidden inside. Others were cracked during transport. Environmental factors are also a concern. Costa Rica's heavy rainfall, humidity, and plant growth slowly wear down the stone. Even though granodiorite is strong, nature is stronger over long periods. Another issue is tourism pressure. While tourism brings attention and funding, it can also cause wear and accidental damage if not managed carefully. Still, compared to many ancient artifacts around the world, the spheres are relatively stable today. When I think about the Dikis spheres, I don't see aliens or lost super technology, I see determination. I imagine teams of ancient workers shaping rock under the hot tropical sun. I imagine leaders proudly placing a finished sphere in front of a settlement. I imagine children growing up seeing these perfect shapes and wondering about their meaning. In my opinion, the real beauty of the spheres is not that they are mysterious, but that they show how much effort humans will put into symbolism. Creating something perfectly round without machines is not easy. It takes planning, teamwork, and patience. They may have been status symbols. They may have been spiritual markers. They may have represented unity or eternity. The truth is likely simple but meaningful. Today, the spheres stand quietly in southern Costa Rica, some in museums, some outdoors under the sky. They are protected but still vulnerable to weather and time. The positive is that they are recognized and preserved. The negative is that much of their original story may never be fully recovered. The present situation is hopeful but cautious. Conservation continues. Research slowly adds pieces to the puzzle. And in the green landscapes of Costa Rica, these ancient stone spheres remain, silent, smooth, and perfectly round, reminding us that sometimes the simplest shapes can carry the deepest mysteries. Antikythera mechanism. What if I told you that over 2,000 years ago, long before electricity, long before modern science labs, long before digital screens, someone built a machine so advanced that even today it still shocks experts? Not a simple tool, not a weapon, but a machine with gears. Interlocking bronze gears. A device that could predict the movement of the sun, the moon, and even eclipses. It sounds impossible, but it's real. In 1901, sponge divers exploring a shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera pulled up something strange from the sea. At first, it looked like a lump of corroded metal stuck inside rock. Nothing impressive, just another broken object from an ancient ship. But when it was cleaned and examined more closely, researchers saw tiny gear teeth inside. Gears, in something that had been underwater for nearly 2,000 years. That discovery changed everything. The object we now call the Antikythera mechanism dates back to around 100 BCE. That means it was built more than 2,100 years ago, at a time when Rome was rising, at a time when many parts of the world had no advanced mechanical devices at all. And yet, here was a machine with more than 30 bronze gears, carefully cut, arranged in layers, working together. So, what did it do? It was essentially an ancient analog computer. When you turned a small handle on the side, the gears moved in a complex way. On the front and back were dials with markings. These dials showed the positions of the sun and moon in the zodiac. They could predict lunar phases. They could even predict eclipses years in advance. Think about that. Even today, predicting eclipses requires knowledge of astronomy and mathematics. And here were ancient Greeks building a handheld mechanical device to do exactly that. How? That is the mystery. Ancient Greece was home to brilliant thinkers. Names like Archimedes and Hipparchus come to mind. Some historians believe that scientists like them may have inspired or even helped design devices like this. Hipparchus, for example, was known for his study of the moon's motion. The mechanism includes a gear system that matches his theories, but we do not have written proof linking him directly to the device. That missing link makes it even more fascinating. The gears themselves are incredibly detailed. Each tooth had to be cut carefully by hand. If even one gear was slightly wrong, the entire system would fail. The level of precision is shocking for its time. For many years after its discovery, experts did not fully understand what it was. It looked too advanced. Some even wondered if it had somehow been misplaced in history, like a modern object lost in the past. But slowly, with X-ray scans and 3D imaging, scientists uncovered its secrets. They saw inscriptions in Greek letters explaining how to use it. They mapped out the gear systems, and piece by piece they realized this was not a random object. It was designed. It was calculated. It was intentional. And here's the strange part. We have not found anything else quite like it from that period. Where are the other machines? If Greek engineers could build something this complex, why don't we have more surviving examples? Did they exist and simply decay? Were they rare and expensive? Were they destroyed during wars? After the fall of ancient Greek and Roman civilizations, much knowledge was lost in Europe. Complex gear systems did not appear again in such detail until medieval clocks over 1,000 years later. It feels like a gap in history. The Antikythera mechanism almost seems ahead of its time. Now, imagine holding it when it was new. Bronze shining, gears turning smoothly, astronomical knowledge moving with every twist of the handle. For a wealthy scholar or navigator, it must have felt magical. But it was not magic, it was mathematics. The Greeks deeply studied the sky. They observed patterns. They measured cycles. The mechanism is based on cycles like the Metonic cycle, which tracks the relationship between the sun and moon over 19 years. That knowledge required patience and intelligence, generations of observation. And yet, this machine sank to the bottom of the sea. The ship carrying it likely wrecked during a storm. It lay underwater for nearly 2,000 years. Salt water corroded it. Wood decayed. Bronze hardened into crust. When divers found it, they almost ignored it. Imagine if they had. Now, let's talk about the present condition. Today, the Antikythera mechanism is preserved in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, Greece. It is displayed in a controlled environment. Modern technology continues to scan it in detail, revealing new inscriptions that were unreadable before. That is a huge positive. We have advanced tools like X-ray tomography that allow us to see inside without damaging it. Scientists from around the world collaborate to understand it better. Computer models have recreated how it once worked. Public interest is strong. It is often called the world's first computer, which captures imagination and brings attention to ancient science. But there are negatives too. The mechanism is incomplete. Only about 1/3 of it survives. Many gears are missing. The outer casing is gone. We can only guess what the full original design looked like. Also, bronze corrosion cannot be reversed fully. Conservation slows damage, but time has already taken much from it. Another challenge is interpretation. Scholars sometimes disagree on how certain parts worked. Without a complete version, there is room for debate. And beyond that, there is the larger issue of lost knowledge. If devices like this once existed more widely, they are gone, melted down, destroyed, forgotten. When I think about the Antikythera mechanism, I feel both awe and sadness. Awe because it proves that ancient humans were far more advanced in science and engineering than many people assume. They were not primitive, They were thinkers, observers, builders. Sadness because so much knowledge can disappear so easily. Civilizations rise, they create wonders, and then time erases almost everything. In my opinion, this device is one of the most powerful reminders that human intelligence is not new. We often think we live in the most advanced time in history. But 2,100 years ago, someone carefully designed a mechanical model of the universe using bronze gears. That deserves respect. Today, the Antikythera mechanism rests safely in Greece, protected and studied. That is the positive. It is no longer lost under the sea, it continues to teach us. But it is fragile, incomplete, a broken memory of a larger scientific world we may never fully recover. And every time we look at its corroded gears, we are reminded of a simple truth. The past is deeper than we think. And sometimes, hidden beneath the ocean floor, lies a machine that changes how we see human history forever.